Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today. Now, those of you who have followed my channel know my feelings on the Shroud of Turin, my views on it. And I know I have a lot of new subscribers. I just went over 5,000 subs, and I know I went over 4,000 subs around Christmas time, so that's a lot of new subscribers in the past few months. I think that is really cool. But my views on the Shroud, now, I do not like to have preconceived notions when I begin to research something. And I totally did on the Shroud. I will admit that, I'll be honest. I was sure that I would find it to be a 14th century or 13th century fraud, and that the church was trying to, connect to their biblical Jesus crucifixion story as validation of that story. I mean, what wouldn't be greater proof of the story in the Bible than the Shroud? But what I found, much to my dismay and amazement, it was totally the opposite. This is an actual 2,000-year-old artifact that the church has been trying to discredit for 1,900 years. And in my next video, I'm going to go over exactly how the church has tried to discredit the Shroud, and even in the Bible. And that is just strange why they would do that. But I'm going to lay the whole story out for you in very specific terms. And it is the most incredible thing that I've ever come to realize when research. And actually, I still don't believe today what I now know to be true. Now, you may remember last week I put out a video where I talked about a holy image in Edessa, Turkey. And then the very next video, I put out a video where I thought that the New Testament was just a Roman rewrite of history. And I gave you the reasons why the Romans did it. So those two things, I believe 100% for sure that there was an ancient holy image of who at least the Bible calls Jesus in the Roman rewrite of history. But I also, I don't believe the New Testament to be true. But yet I believe there is an image of the man that they call Jesus in the Bible. So you see, we have a problem here. So there has to be some amazing story behind it. And, the authors of biblical history, instead of trying to latch onto this, which would be the greatest testament of the biblical narrative of the resurrection of the guy they call Jesus, the authors of the, church history disassociate themselves, try to discredit it. And they even have councils in Turkey, one at Constantinople, they had a secret one at Edessa that little people know about, Nicaea, where the Bible was really formed. But one thing they talked about was don't venerate images. Images of Christ, don't worship those, even though it's the greatest proof of the New Testament story. There has to be a story there. What is going on here? What are we missing? What is the story? And I'm going to answer all those questions in my next video. I have traced the Shroud through history for 2,000 years, and one of the earliest indications that people knew of the Shroud was, if I can go over the right page here, was this. This comes from maybe just a few decades after Jesus lived, and this comes from Edessa, Turkey originally. People pretty much have agreed upon that. Now, this comes from the Gnostic Society Library, and this is written in 1908, and this is called the Hymn of the Robe of Glory. And this is accredited to the Acts of Thomas, the Apostle, and there are certain books that are kept out of the Bible for a reason, called the apocryphal text. But who do historians attribute this to in real history? Well, it's a guy by the name of Bardasian. And what does it say about Bardasian? It says, his parents were rich and noble, and their young son not only received the best education in manners and learning procurable, but he was brought up at the court of Edessa with the crown prince, who afterwards succeeded to the throne as one of the Abgars. And the Abgars were the rulers, the name, just the general name, the rulers were given in the 1st century at Edessa. So this connects, this hymn talks of the Shroud of Turin. So this connects the Shroud, the Abgars, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, because in the Dead Sea Scrolls, you have something called the MMT letter, which were writings to a great leader in Edessa for assistance. And there are a few different people that those letters probably fell into, and Abgar is one of them. But there is something even more important about Abgar, and I'm sure some of you have thought of that already. But I'm going to go into that in my next video when I show you the direct disinformation act that the church has been putting out against the Shroud. And it is really quite cruel once you really see what's going on. But what does this hymn say about what we know today as the Shroud of Turin? And remember, this comes from Thomas. And who is Thomas? It says he is the brother of the biblical Jesus, a twin, in fact. It says, at once, as soon as I saw it, the glory looked like my own self. I saw in it all of me, and I saw me in all of it. That we were twain in distinction, and yet again one in likeness. I saw too the treasurers also, who unto me had down brought it, were twain of one likeness, for one sign of the King was upon them, who through them restored me the glory, the pledge of my kingship. And this is the earliest writing of the Shroud of Turin, really, that I could find. It was known as the image of Edessa, the Mandilion, and the Mandilion comes from the word mantle. And this is what this robe is called earlier in this hymn, and I will leave the link for the whole hymn if you want to read it. But this, for sure, to me, this is just screaming out that they're talking about the Shroud of Turin. And in this verse, it says that we were twain in distinction. And what does the word twain mean in this respect? Twain means two of one, the double or image. Okay, and where else do we see twain? This is Matthew 27, and this is Jesus right after he dies on the cross. It says, Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake. Now, it says, the veil of the temple was rent in twain. In double, the veil was in double, an image to the two of one. Well, what does that original phrase mean? The original word for veil? It says, the veil suspended before the Holy of Holies. And there became an image of it. It became twain, the double image. This is the Shroud of Turin, talked about in the Bible right after the crucifixion. This whole mystery has just been glossed over, lost to history, and purposely removed and discredited by the church for a reason. Now, if you want to waste my time and talk about how the Shroud is just a fraud and complete bull, go right ahead. But after researching this, I realized that in order for the Shroud to be a 14th century hoax, that almost takes more belief in the miraculous than some of the theories put forward on how the Shroud was created. So if you want to waste my time with that, go right ahead. I'm fully ready. This was the image of the Messiah, but it's not Rome's Messiah. It's the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls Messiah, this messianic movement against Rome, and the church has tried to discredit it for 1950 years. My next video, I'm going to put it all together and give you a conclusion that you're not going to forget. Hope you thought this was interesting. You have a nice day.